might somehow save the day.
Welcome back to LearnPianoLive.com. My name is Jamin, and as you can tell from the countdown clock, the lesson is about to get started. In case you're new with us, there's a few things I'd like to show you to help you throughout the lesson. Today we're writing songs. Everybody, I'm writing songs, you're writing songs, everybody's writing their own songs, and this is truly for all levels. So anyone can write a great song. You are going to write a great song. Depending on your skill level, you may not be able to play the song at the end of the lesson that you've written, but at least you'll have something you could pass off to one of your musician friends and have them play the song for you that you wrote. So that's the goal today, is to write a song and understand how they're put together. You'll hear lots of talk about chords and about keys, so it helps if you have some knowledge about that. But there are really three parts: the chords, the melody, and the lyrics, and you can just do one of those parts. You don't have to do all three of them. And I should also throw in here, there's many ways to write a song. So this is not the right way to do it. This is just a way that I think is easy to get started on and for me to show you how to do on your own. These lessons are always guided and shaped by your questions, and if you're live with us today, there's a couple different ways you can do that. One is in the public live chat, and the other is the Ask Jamin a Question button, where you can ask me a question privately, and I won't share your identity in case you're afraid that your question is stupid. But it's not. If you're in the archives, though, then just open up the survey. At the end of that, there's a place where you can ask your question. I will say I frequently get questions from students in the archives watching a lesson from 6 months ago, and I have no idea what they're talking about. So please try to be as specific as possible. If you're watching this at LearnPianoLive.com, there should be a PDF and an MP3 button right next to this video. The PDF will often have additional video links inside, so you can get more in-depth instruction on each of the topics. And if you're the kind of person who likes to print out the PDF so you can make the same notes on your physical version as I'm making during the lesson, now would be the time to do that. The MP3 is just a play-along track so you can practice more after the lesson. In traditional lessons, a teacher is going to actually present some new concept for maybe 5 or 10 minutes every couple weeks. The rest of the time is going to be spent applying and refining those concepts. Well, here I'm spouting off hours of new information every week, so it's totally unreasonable to expect you to actually absorb all of that. Instead, the goal of these live lessons is for you to find some little nugget of something that makes sense, but is a bit of a challenge, and for you to go practice it, because practice is where all the improvement's going to happen. So don't feel bad if you have to leave the live lesson when you find that little thing that you're going to practice. And of course, if I'm going too fast, you can always rewind the live lessons or replay in the archives as much as you want. If these live lessons start feeling random or meandering, it's because they are, on purpose. So if you're the kind of person who wants classical training with a step-by-step method, then you're going to want to check out Kloppel Academy on the website. It's included in your live lesson subscription, so you can do both or either. And the upper levels are seriously hard work, but it's going to take you all the way from ground zero all the way up to being ready to enter any major music college as a piano major in classical or jazz. And thankfully, I think that's about all we need to cover before the lesson. So if you'd stick around afterwards and fill out the survey, I would love your feedback. But for now, let's have some fun and make some music. All right, so that middle part is a tiny, small lie, because this is not exactly for all levels, but yesterday was definitely for all levels, and if you were here yesterday, then you'll get a lot out of the lesson today. But it's going to kind of step on top of what we did yesterday and take the next step after that. So we're talking about writing songs. Today we're going to just jump straight in and start talking about keys and how this affects your song. It doesn't. The end. So the key of C is all white notes, the most convenient one, which is why we did the key of C yesterday. And then there's reasons you pick different keys, because certain keys for certain songs are going to be easier or more difficult to sing in. So if you had some song where the melody goes up to the 5th note of the key, so in the key of C, let's go ahead and go to the key of C. There we go. In the key of C, the 5th note would be that one right there. So if your melody goes, the highest note that we had was the 5 right there. Well, if your singing range is like from here to here, let's say that's how high and low you could sing, well then putting the song right here doesn't make a lot of sense because that's right at the very bottom of your singable range. So it would make more sense to put the song in a key where this was the 5, or where this was the 5, or this was the 5. If we put it in the key of F, for example, then this would be the 5 of the key of F. And now we could sing it. And the highest note would be the highest note that you'd be able to sing. So you can shift your keys around so that the singable range better matches the vocalist that would be performing the song. That's one reason. Another reason is depending on what instruments you're playing along with, guitarists are going to hate the key of F. So if you write a song in the key of F and you play it in the key of F, then they're already going to hate your song. So if you play it in the key of G or D or E or one of the other more guitar-friendly keys, then they're going to be better able to play along with you. Depending on their skill level, they may not even be able to play in the key of F without using a capo or something like that. I'm throwing out a lot of terms right now that you don't need to know capo and guitar keys, things like that. But just know that there are other factors that go into what key you pick other than just like the writing of the song. The song is going to sound the same when you play it on piano, no matter what. So there you've got 12 different options here for keys. The key where this is number 1, where this is number 1, where this is number 1, this is number 1. You can make any of those notes number 1 and write your song, and they're all going to sound pretty much exactly the same, except for people who have perfect pitch. Another term you don't need to know, but if you do have perfect pitch, you might have more of a preference of the keys than the general population. Okay, cool. Picking a time signature. This one actually significantly changes the feel of the song. So the most common, by far, I'm going to take a guess, total stab in the dark, 95% of music is in 4/4 time. That's probably a little bit high, but not very. So 4/4 time just means, like we talked about yesterday, you're going to have 4 beats in each measure, or 4 pulses per chunk. So yesterday we were going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And it kind of has that feel to it. It just feels normal. So other options would be to only put 3 beats in a measure, and to play, if we play in 3, then it would be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1. Generally, 3/4 time feels more bouncy than 4/4 time. It feels more waltzy than 4/4 time. It feels more, I don't know. Let me play 2 different songs. You tell me which one you think. I won't be able to hear you. You tell me which one you think is in 3/4 time. So here's one option. And here's another option. Yeah, so the second one was in 3/4. So that's another option. Another option would be to put 6 beats in a measure. And I know there's tons of you who are going, well, what about 5? There's no 5 in here. What about 2? There's no 2 in here. What about 7? So the most common ones are going to be 3, 4, and 6. And we're not going to dive into the reasons why. But 5 feels super weird. 2 doesn't feel special at all. And 7 is even more weird probably than 5. Maybe. Yeah. So then you want to stick with 4, 3, and 6 until you're comfortable with all those. 6 just kind of feels like 2 3s clumped together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. So you could accidentally count this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you could count it in 3, but usually 6 is going to have kind of 2 distinct halves to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1. And of course, we have an entire workshop. If you just click on that little play button there. Then I'll talk about all those different numbers that you want to get in there. But that's kind of one of the main questions you need to ask is, what is the feel that you want? Do you want a normal feel, 4/4 time, or do you want something a little bit bouncier, 3/4 time, or do you want something like that feels like 6/8 time? And I don't have a describer for 6/8. It just feels like 6/8. It feels gospel-y to me, but that's just because I've played a lot of gospel music in 6/8. So every time I hear a 6, it feels that way to me. But it probably doesn't to you. And then picking a tempo. This is wide open here, and you'll want to check out that if you don't know about tempos. But it's just how fast do you want your song to be. So if you've got an old-timey metronome like this one right here, this is actually not an old-timey metronome. It just looks like one. It's a chunk of cheap plastic. My goodness, they used to make quality things. Anyway, so this is just going to help you stay on tempo. The higher up you push this thing right here, the slower it's going to go. There we go. And the farther down you push it, the faster it's going to go. So how fast do you want your song to be? You test out different tempos. There are free metronomes online, apps on your phones, and all kinds of newfangled tools for metronomes. But it just means picking the speed. In general, like anywhere from 90 to 120 is going to be kind of the comfortable range for slow-ish songs and fast-ish songs. Once you get down to like the 50, 60 territory, then that's going to feel like a super slow song. Once you get into like the 180 territory, then things are going to start to feel crazy fast. So 90 to 120 is going to be the safe zone in general. Then picking a feel. So this one right here is just going to be whether you want your song to be straight, meaning it goes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, or whether you want to bump that and over just a little bit. So you see in the straight one, the and was right there. But in the swung one, we've bumped the and over just a smidge. So it goes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now, this is the feel of like all of the old-timey jazz. So all the... all of that stuff is swung. But then it's also like the feel of like... cowboy-ish. So, anyway, it's got lots of different uses, and it can have different feels depending on what chords you use and what notes you use and stuff. But that's kind of the two questions: is do you want it to be straight, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, or do you want it to be swung, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, pushing all those ands over just a smidge. We will make all these decisions in just a second. We're just going to talk about the decisions first. And this was a great idea right here, this page, that none of these links are available for, because the goal is, and thank you for the great idea. Obviously, it was great enough that I thought that I should put it in the PDF, and it was it's just a lot more work than I expected. So this is going to be play-along tracks for every single type of tempo and feel and time signature that would be common. As it turns out, when you do that, there's 48 different tracks we need to make, and I'm only at number 21. So I'm going to try to finish those off by hopefully the end of the week, and all of these links will be live. But none of those play buttons actually play anything right now. But that'll be the goal. So once you pick your tempo, your time signature, then you should have a play-along track that would just be a drummer playing exactly your thing. Just got to make 48 different ones of them. I think that's what the number was, something like that, something crazy in the 50-ish range. And then picking the sections. So do you want to have an introduction? Do you want to have a verse? The answer is yes. You want to have a verse. Do you want to have a pre-chorus? It's up in the air. Do you want to have a chorus? The answer is yes. Then you need to find some kind of ending. So the only things you absolutely have to have are the verse, the chorus, and the ending. And we do go into more detail on this if you go to the learnpianolive.com/songwriting. Then this ridiculously long workshop right here. It's just part one. Good. We put it into different parts. You've got all the spinners there for selecting these things randomly in case you don't want to make decisions on your own. And then we've broken the workshop up into 3 different parts. So I do go into a little bit more detail there. But for right now, just know that we have perhaps an introduction. You could choose, there's some way you need to start playing, and there needs to be some way that you end your playing. So that's your intro and your ending. Then in the middle, you've got to have a something, which we're going to call the verse, and then you need to have a something else, which we're going to call the chorus. That's kind of the two requirements, is that you do something and that you change it. Cool. So that's the verse and the chorus. And then if you want to put something in between those two sections, we'll call this section A and this section B. If you want to put in something right here, we could call that a pre-chorus. If you want to put in something after the chorus, we could call that a bridge. And then if you want to have like a solo or something like that, we could call that an interlude. So those are other options for things you could add in. But definitely you need to have a something and a something else. And at some point you have to stop playing your instrument. So we're going to call that the ending. If you just stop, then we would call that a cut. If you have a way to, in post-production, after you've already recorded your song, fade the song out, then that's called a fade. But if you're not going to cut the song, just stop on some last chord, then you're probably going to have some kind of outro, which is just like the intro. It's just some set of chords that you're going to play in order to find a comfortable way to end the song. So that would be your outro. In fact, that's not even a cut. That's an outro. So that's something you play that tells the audience this is the end of the song. Not all of them are that cheesy. Very few of them are actually that cheesy. But so an outro would just be like, I'm sorry, and a cut would be something like, bam. That's it. My bam right there was the opposite of a cut. Bam was an outro. That's something that comes after the end of the song that tells the audience. All right, so I think you understand what an outro is, hopefully. Then here we've got all of them for all the symbols for introduction. If you wanted to have that, you got to have a verse. You got to maybe have a pre-chorus. You could have a chorus. You could have some kind of interlude after the chorus. You could have another verse, a pre-chorus, a chorus, a bridge here, or an interlude. And then you could have after that a chorus if you wanted, or another chorus. And then either an outro, a fade, or just a cut, an ending, or not an ending, just stopping the music at the end. So then, once you have that, the question is, well, I want to have an introduction for sure. How long should your introduction be? I would recommend that it's either 2 measures or 4 measures or 8 measures. Yesterday we talked about what measures are, so we won't go through that again today. But picking your section size is going to be important. We will get to questions here in a little bit. We've got some songwriting to do first. So intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, we need to decide how long each of those sections are going to be. And those are my recommendations for how long each section can be. Of course, for you type 2 people who are super duper creative and like to express your creativity even when it sounds really sucky, then you can pick any number you want. You don't have to pick the safe numbers. These are just some recommendations of what might sound good. And then here I've given you the song forms for some of the most popular songs from the last, I don't know, however many decades. There aren't a whole lot of them here, but enough that you can start to get a feel for what people usually do. It looks like the beginning is usually some kind of intro, verse, chorus, like that one, or intro, verse, verse, chorus, intro, verse, chorus, intro, verse, chorus, intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus. And then here's some other song forms on here, ABA, blues. And then right here, we've got kind of a weird one, whatever this song is. We've got an intro and then an interlude, starts out with an interlude, and then verse and chorus. Intro, verse, chorus. AAB, intro, verse, chorus. So just going through these and looking at them, you can kind of get a feel for, okay, so most people are doing intro, verse, chorus. For you first personality types, you're going, that's cool, now I know what to do. Intro, verse, chorus sounds like that's going to be the safe thing to do. And for the second types of people, you guys are going, everybody does intro, verse, chorus. How boring. I'm going to be the first creative person ever. I'm going to go bridge, intro, outro, verse. You people are crazy. And I love you. So then, what was the one that had the weird thing at the beginning? Oh, Mariah Carey, Always Be My Baby. Apparently, after the intro, they go straight into an interlude before they hit the verse. So that's kind of cool, I guess. Now, it's time for us to write a song, and this is where I kind of speed through this stuff, because when we pick them randomly with these chord picker things over here, then the complaints that I get is that I'm not inserting myself enough into those. So what I've done here is this workshop that you could watch there, I insert myself 0. It's all totally random so that you can feel like the idea there was, I want you to know that if you pick a random selection of all these different options, it's still going to sound super duper decent. So what we're going to do today is the opposite of that. I'm going to pick the ones that I like, and I'm going to tell you why I like them. And it's going to go a little bit faster because we're not waiting for the random pickers. But let's see here what we want to do. So the first thing is a key. I'm going to pick the key of F just because that one's a relatively easy one. It only has one flat. So we'll be in the key of F. And I'm going to pick a time signature of, let's pick 6/8 because I really like 6/8. It just feels cool. And usually a 6/8 for me is going to feel like the tempo that I'm going to be most comfortable with is going to be like a boom. This is not the best tempo. This is just the one that I'm picking right now. And if we use our metronome, a little bit faster than 120. We'll go like 130-ish. So we'll say 130 in the key of F in 6/8. So we'll go swung. Tempo is going to be 132. The key is going to be the key of F, and we're going to be in 6/8. There we go. That's the beginnings of it. And from there, I'm going to pick an intro, a 4-bar intro, because it seems a little crazy to just jump into a song and not have an intro. And you should see what one looks like. So we're going to go double bar over here, just meaning that this section is set apart. So we're going to be in the key of F. We'll start right here. We're going to call this the intro. We're going to have a verse that'll be 8 bars. We'll have a chorus that'll be 8 bars. And then we're going to just cut at the end. So we're just going to play our last chord, which is going to be an F at the end. The reason it's going to be an F is because we're in the key of F. Okay, so just an overview of the song so far. We haven't actually written anything. We're going to be in the key of F, which means that our chords are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1. And those are all listed down here on the next one. Picking your chords to the key of F. My chord numbers would be these guys right here. Don't forget, we're going to want to focus on the 1, the 4, the 5, and the 6 for all the reasons that we talked about yesterday. And I'm afraid that right now is about when some people are feeling like, oh my goodness, this is going way too fast. I don't know how to play in the key of F. This is over my head. Just hang on. You won't be able to play this at the end necessarily, but at least you'll see some of the structure and see what goes into playing these songs. So this is our structure. We're going to focus on the 1, the 4, the 5, and the 6 in the key of F. We're in 6/8. So just right here so far. Dum 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 dum. So at the beginning here, I'm going to begin and end with an F, which is a 1 chord. Because that's going to make it, the F at the beginning is going to set up the key. So I'm going to use that. If you start on something other than the 1 chord, it can often feel like the beginning of the song, it kind of starts off balance a little bit. Because the very first chord that you play, no matter what key you're in, the first chord that you play, the audience is going to hear that as the 1 chord. So if then you switch up on them later on, if you play at the beginning of the song a B flat, in your head you're thinking, okay, this is the 4 chord, I'm in the key of F. No problem, I'm just starting on the 4 chord. Well, that's nice for you, but your audience, when you played that B flat chord, they heard that as the 1 chord. So then when you play something else like a C, and it goes outside of the key of B flat, they're like, whoa, hang on, this song is kind of weird. I don't know what's going on here. He's already changed keys, because even though you haven't, in your head you played the 4 chord and then the 5 chord, but in their head, you started in the key of B flat, and then you went to a C, and I don't know what's going on, so it takes them a little bit longer to orient themselves. So for that reason, I'm going to start with an F, and then I'm going to end the intro with an F. And here we'll just go 2, which is going to be a G minor, to a 5 for the reasons that we talk about in the circle of fifths. Because 2s like to go to a 5, and 5s like to go to 1s. So we've got an F, 2, 3, 4, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 1, 2, over C, which is also known as B or C suspended. B flat over C. 2. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. So here I'm going to start with an F. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, sure. We'll go F to C to I'm going to go C over E. The reason I want to do that is because I want this bass line to walk smoothly from F to E to D, and then I'm going to go to a G minor right there. So here's my verse. F, I'm going to go back to D minor, yeah, sure, we'll go to A minor there, just to use a bunch of different chords in here, trying to include all of them from the key of F. So, I think we've used F, G minor, A minor, B flat, C, D minor. The only one I haven't used is the E diminished, like we talked about yesterday. You're not going to use that chord. So, here we go. And 1, 2, 3. Oh, here from the intro. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. And here's G minor. C. F. B flat. C over E. D minor. A minor. B flat, and C. Here's our chorus. This C, by the way, stands for chorus, not a C chord. This V is for verse, and this I is for intro. Here we go. So the chorus is going to be sure, we'll just do the same thing twice in a row. A minor, B flat, and C. B flat, C, and then we'll end on the F at the very, very end. And here's our completed song, Chords, no melody yet. We'll get there, hang on. Talking to the chatters. Okay. Here's our song. Refresh, I'll tell you what. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, Again. So that's just like a quickly thrown together 6/8, 132 beats per measure swung key of F, intro, verse, chorus, 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 I think is what I played, and then cut at the end with just the last chord being an F. And it sounded like, yeah, that's probably, I think I've heard that song before. That sounds familiar. And that's pretty much random chords, not so much with the walk down stuff. When I knew that I wanted to go from an F to a D minor, I walked through that E, that C over E. So there was some of that stuff going on, but mostly it was pretty random chords. That's the whole thing, my friends. These are the chords in each of the keys. And then we could adjust things here if we wanted to, putting in major chords, things like that. But I think for the purposes of writing our melody tomorrow, we're going to keep it all safe, and we're just going to skip right over all of these. I think I did every single one of these in the workshop, just to show you what randomness sounds like. But let me go back, and I'll just, I guess, throw in a couple of them for the fun of it. But what I just played, I think, is what we're going to write our melody over tomorrow. We talked about staying safe. These are the chords in the order that you'd want to play them in most cases. Ending chords, we ended on a 1. That's great. I think we used all these chords somewhere in the song, with the exception of the 7. We didn't use the 7. And then the safest chord movements, we talked about 2, 5, 1s. And I don't think we had any 6s to 2s. Did we have? We did. Somewhere in there we had a 6 to a 2. But anyway, so the 2, 5, 1 thing is in there. I know I'm not saying a whole lot of stuff in here. I'm trying to find out what I want to throw in. Nothing. It sounds great, Jamin. Why would you mess with it? You said you were going to play something that sounded good today, and you did. Okay, cool. You convinced me. Stepwise bass movements. We did all that stuff. We did the walking down thing when we went from the F to the C over E, D minor. You know what? I think the goal was to write a good chord progression, and we wrote a good chord progression. So I'm going to, for the first time, not beat this thing into submitting and becoming a horrible, horrible song they end up hating later. I liked it. It sounded good. We're going to stick with that. That's our thing, which means it's time for our feature of the day, which is a video from a dude, a group, a something. Here we go. This is the one that I want. Called Holistic Songwriting. And they... they're still finding out what they are, but one of the things that they are is they take artists or songs and break them down, and it's in somewhat of a made-up fashion. So some of the stuff they say is total BS, and they're just making it up because they need to make a video, and some of it is totally legit and kind of makes sense. So here's some examples, some quick examples from their channel, and then we'll get to your questions.
Songs and see what we would expect to happen and what actually happens. The first is a rhythmical shift in Heathens, where instead of a simple repetition, the 3rd and 4th lines start a little early. Here's what you're expecting.
All my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Please just don't make any sudden moves. You don't know the half of the abuse.
And here's what actually happens.
All my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Please don't make any sudden moves. You don't know the half of the abuse.
In Migraine, this is what you'd expect.
But I know
Instead, they give you this.
But I know we've made it this far, kid.
And finally, in one of my personal favorites, see how the notes fall in.
So they've got some really cool stuff that they do, because they'll take a song and they'll break it down like that and show you all the different options and why the song makes you feel the way that it does, in kind of the same way that we do with our song covers, our theory lessons every other week, except obviously they've got a much higher production value on theirs because they're doing a bunch of post editing and stuff like that, and ours is just live. We're doing as much as we can of that stuff on the fly here. So anyway, next week, by the way, we will be doing the song... Why would you say that out loud, Jamin? It's called I Try. It's a really super old song from the 90s, and I can't think of how it goes off the top of my head right now. But anyways, I try, and hopefully we'll have some guest vocalists in here who will also help us cover the song, and should be pretty awesome. I'm hoping to actually have a whole like chorus of them. Don't know if I can get them all here live, but I'll show you the cover when it's done and talk to you about what we're doing as we go along with that. Let's get to your questions. Hang on, let me make sure. Okay. Cool. Import. How often should I write songs to get good? You know what? Honestly, it's not a lot. But you need to get the feedback of hearing your song played. So if you're just writing the song and you don't have someone playing it back to you, or you're not playing it yourself, then you're probably not getting a lot better. Just because you need that feedback loop. Honestly, though, what has helped me a lot, like I was talking about yesterday, is I've just transcribed a whole lot of these songs. So paying attention to what other people do and how, when they tweak it, what that does to your senses. So if I were you, honestly, like this would probably be the most informative thing you could do is for this thing. Like you notice that someone did something different here. There's an intro or there's a interlude right after the intro on this song on Always Be My Baby. Well, then let's go back and listen to Always Be My Baby and see what that thing sounds like. How is that different? What did that do to the feel of it? Did that wreck the song for me? I'll tell you, for me, like the words don't come in at the beginning, so I almost feel like this is going to be an instrumental thing. Like, where's the part where I'm supposed to sing along? It doesn't work for me as a pop song like that song in particular. I don't have any problems with it, but in general, I think putting an interlude right there at the beginning makes your audience. It just pushes your audience farther off, because the sooner you start singing the words, the sooner they may start making the emotional connections with you. In most cases, if you've got some good lyrics, so I think it's probably a detriment to your song. But whatever. She sold like a billion trillion albums with that thing, but just go and see what that thing does to you. What about the blues form? What about these songs right here, Jailhouse Rock and Hound Dog? How does the blues form hit you? So just doing a lot of transcriptions and paying attention to what you're listening to, and seeing what kind of effect those songs have on your appreciation of the song can do a lot of the stuff like the holistic songwriting guys are doing. Just paying attention to it. What's happening here? Why do I feel the way that I'm feeling? So it's not as much about writing songs as it is paying attention to what's happening in songs. So you could do that by writing songs and listening to the feedback of your song, listening to your song back and getting your own feedback from that, or just by transcribing, paying attention to other songs. How often should I write songs to get good? Frequently. But make sure you can play them or hear them. The practice drums tracks links are dead. Yes, I'm aware of that. I'm hoping by the end of the week to update that in the PDF. There's just a ton of tracks that I have to put together for that. There's 48 of them, and we just started on them like a week and a half ago. So I've about half of them done so far. So I'm hoping to rush and get the rest of them to you by the end of the week. Sorry about that. Who was that band playing at the beginning? That was a group called Four. I'm not sure they're together anymore. Four was, I think it was just like four little I's, like lowercase Roman numeral 4. I. But yeah, they're pretty cool. They're like a friend of a friend. I guess they used to be in California or whatever. And so yeah. How do I do good lyrics? The short answer is use a lot of emotion. Make sure that you use words, speak from your heart, and use words that communicate succinctly the emotion. Go for the emotion every single time. It's not about what you're saying or what you're describing. It's about how it's making people feel. The long answer is we're going to do a whole lesson on that tomorrow. After we talk about the melody, we'll talk about lyrics. And so, yeah, this page here is all about ways to make people feel the way that you feel and making sure that you talk about your feelings. Okay, but I'll say that with a lot more words. But you could actually, we're not going to read all this stuff here tomorrow, so you might want to go ahead and read that stuff, those suggestions about ways to feel, and that will help tomorrow's lesson make more sense. So a little bit of homework there in preparation for the lyrics thing. But yeah, and it looks like that is it. So until next time, I guess this is the part where I say, honestly, from my heart, I love you. Good luck. Have fun. Send me your videos. Can't wait to see what you come up with. See you next time.